I'll end up calling people out there first and then I'll last. And just know right now that I'm gonna trip it up. And so
For the jokes I get with my last names. All the time. That's a lot of good jokes.
hey, we need, I'll end up calling people out there.
Yeah, we might stop up there.
Love our Instagram.
Sarah's out of the comfort zone today. She doesn't have her spot.
I'm sorry, it's not fixed.
Sarah, we were just saying we need to allocate some money for some new chairs up here. They're all like,
Yeah, we should do.
oh, I think.
I think Sean got it. Hey, he sat there.
I sat here, it's fine.
He's a very good sport.
We all put it down for, you know. Oh, we have some more.
That's a hard question.
Was that when you met everybody?
Yeah, you can sit wherever you are. We're a little jumbled tonight. We're getting there. We're getting there. Okay, we live.
We are live and we are up
Okay.
and.
We'll go ahead and welcome everybody to the Pleasant View Planning Commission, our meeting for March 2nd, 2023, 6 p.m. We'll go ahead and call to order the meeting for tonight. First of all, we'd like to welcome everybody for joining us tonight. And I do see that we have some youth city council members joining us tonight. So if you don't understand something, go ahead and wave your hand, ask questions. We're happy to have everybody here to join us tonight. We'll go ahead and start with the Pledge of Allegiance and opening prayer, reading or expression of thought. I'll ask Commissioner Wilkinson if you mind leading us now. Okay.
Thanks, guys. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Our Father in heaven, we thank thee for this opportunity to attend this planning commission meeting tonight. We're grateful for the freedoms that we enjoy in this country and for the beautiful place where we live. We're grateful for the snow that we've received this year and pray that our spring runoff will be manageable and that we can avoid some of the major flooding that we've experienced in the past. And we're mindful of those who are in need. Pray that each of us can reach out and do our part as good neighbors and good citizens. And this we pray for in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. We'd like to remind everybody that the declaration of conflicts of interest, all the commissioners had a chance to review the packet and the agenda for tonight. Anyone that needs to declare conflict of interest for tonight. Okay, seeing none, we'll go ahead and move to item number 2, our administrative item. Just as a note first to remind those when you come in or when you leave, we do need everybody to sign the agenda, the attendance for tonight, just for our records. We have to keep a record, public record. Our administrative item tonight is Wildcat minor subdivision planning and zoning administration. We'll turn time over to Brandon Bell to review the items on this. This is for Wildcat Storage minor subdivision on, well, I guess it's on approximately 2550 North, 950 West. So we'll turn the time over to staff.
Thank you, Chair. So the genesis of this subdivision is the fact that we've been working with the applicant. They will have a forthcoming site plan project that will be reviewed we anticipate at next planning commission meeting. But as we reviewed that, it came up that the lot that they're on currently, they wanted to expand And so there's a recent code amendment in the city that permitted expansion of facilities, of storage facilities in this area. But in order to do that, both legally for their current site and to make sure that it fell within ordinance and they fell within the right to expand, a subdivision needed to occur. This qualifies as a minor subdivision. There are a few requirements for minor subdivisions that they must consist of 4 or less lots. This will be 1 lot. It's actually combining 3 or 4 parcels. They must be located on an existing dedicated public right of way, which it is particularly on 2700 North on the opposite side of where the property is being added. And then they must provide all normally required improvements or receive a deferral by the Planning Commission. In communicating with our city engineer, all of the required improvements are actually already in. There will be some dedication of property, which is not prohibited in a minor subdivision. And so all the conditions for a minor subdivision have been recommended by staff as having been met. There are location limitations, again, for expansion of total storage unit areas. The reason staff understood this to be necessary as the subdivision is so that they need to be under 10 acres, the sites, but if we were to allow them to expand on separate parcels that weren't recorded subdivisions, they'd be gaining new vested rights on those parcels, which means that they could potentially use those existing parcels that are separate parcels at present without the subdivision as a new 10-acre site. And so staff wanted to make sure that issue is buttoned up. There is a limitation with regards to expansion. One of those limitations is that the area that's being expanded of the facility not be within 250 feet. The last I recall measuring this is over 300 feet. It's like 350 or more to the center of the site. So they're expanding on the south side of the property. And so this is that the distance is well greater than 250 feet from 2700 North. And then the acreage is 9.54 acres, which comes in under the 10 maximum acreage. There are a couple of minor issues with regards to the minor subdivision regarding services. Well, one in particular, actually, which states that there's a culinary water line on site that the property owner is, they've acquired property for a gravel operation that's just to their east, and they're combining with that property, and there used to be what would qualify as a culinary water main that would go to that other property through their site, and there was an easement on it to access that for the city. With the combination of these properties, it's becoming not a utility main, a culinary water main, but actually a service line for particularly for fire flow. And so the city owns the culinary water line and has an easement, but since the culinary water line will no longer provide culinary water services to multiple property owners or another property owner, but will only provide fire service to a sole property owner, the line no longer serves a broader public purpose. And so at the time of the subdivision or combination of the properties, and simply will serve a single private property owner. Because of this, the city has the option of simply terminating the line so it's no longer used. And so staff is recommending as a condition of approval that if the applicant desires to use the water line for their fire service line, that city staff, that we recommend that the property owner be required to remove the easement on the plat for the water line in order to take possession of the water line, since they'll be the sole beneficiary of its use. Staff also recommends that the applicant be required to complete and execute any other adjustments to the plat and or legal instruments necessary for the applicant to take ownership of the water line, as it's becoming, again, a private service line, fire service line, and that occur prior to or at the time of recording of the subdivision plat. Staff also recommends that city staff have the option of executing a release of easement document to be filed with the county to release any claims to the easement. Further, there's 3 or 4 parcels, I can't remember the total, that are combining into this one property, into this one lot. And staff recommends that those be shown on the plat in light gray with current parcel numbers, all indicating that they are being combined into one property on the plat. So it's clear what's happening with the property from going from multiple parcels to one lot. And then staff also recommends that the applicant should demolish existing structures prior to construction of the new building and recording of the subdivision plat or issuance of a new building permit to ensure that the upcoming site plan, if approved, is followed. One reason for this is that the applicant is vesting additional rights with the recording of the subdivision, specifically for the expansion of the storage unit facility. And so staff feels that this is a reasonable condition that those be demolished prior to the recording of the subdivision so that there's a sort of an assurance that the site plan will be followed and the subdivision is used for the purpose for which it was granted. And again, if the site plan is approved, the city just simply has an interest in ensuring that the upcoming site plan, if approved, is followed. And that's the purpose behind that recommended condition of approval. And then staff, there are 2 or 3 red line requirements that are pretty simple, including taking the buildings that are currently shown on the plat off, and then and 1 or 2 others. So I'll just kind of go over these recommended conditions of approval just to make sure we're clear. The easement on the plat, the recommendation is that the easement on the plat for the existing culinary water being converted to fire flow use only be removed and the site owner take possession of the water line. The applicant and or city be required to complete and execute any other adjustments to the plat or legal instruments necessary for the applicant to take ownership of the water line prior to or at the time of recording of the subdivision plat. Staff also recommends that the city staff have the option of executing a release of easement document to be filed with the county to release any claims to the easement. And then the applicant demolished the existing buildings on site. Specifically, I should clarify, I don't know if I said this before, but those that conflict with what is approved on an upcoming proposed site plan, not all of the buildings on site. There wouldn't be much of an expansion where that recommended condition. And so, and that occurred prior to the recording of the subdivision plat. Recording of the subdivision plat should be considered subject to those buildings being demolished as again, the applicant's vesting additional rights for additional storage units. And then demolition permits need to be secured for the demolition of those existing buildings and structures. Address the red line comments spelled out on the plat by the city engineer. Show the former property lines for parcels that are being combined into the one lot in lighter gray on the plat. And then the above recommended conditions of approval be reviewed for completion by members of the Development Review Committee. Other adjustments needed to the plat necessary to record. And then finally, there was an oversight on the part of city staff regarding the application, and staff just recommends an additional condition of approval that the application be finalized. I hope I didn't, it wasn't too much of a fire hose of information, but do you have any questions for me?
Is there any questions for staff at this time on the presentation? Sorry, remind everybody to speak in so everybody can hear us and it can be recorded.
And Commissioner Barr is the one coming. Sorry.
Yes, thank you for joining us.
So I've got one. I'm looking at the pack on the packet that came out on
You
the.
guys put them out because eventually I'd like to talk about that. I'm sure that's what you're doing too.
I'll warn you about my map driving skills, but they didn't hire me for that.
Well, or even page 2 of the packet.
Have it up on this. Sorry. But I can.
So what I'm looking at here, at least as far as I can see, the red line around the plots includes the Sunrock property.
So it's just, yeah,
Is that, does that just need to be shifted? Is that?
it's just saying but it's not the affected area. So-
That's not, that red line isn't an exact description of the property. It was just the general area.
Okay, gotcha.
So with a pointer, and I don't know, we'll give you a pointer. Can you kind of show us? So we're looking at this area as the current,
Yeah, these parcels in the back.
and is this all that we're adding on is this parcel here?
So it's actually, is it 3 parcels right here?
Yeah, so it turns it into a full rectangle to between 2700 north and 2550.
So it has nothing to do with this. I'm just clarifying for the,
Correct,
from the
yeah.
packet. It has nothing to do with these two.
That's a whole different color. So it's through this rear portion here, but it is a few different little tiny lots, and it just cleans it up to have it as the planning administrator stated, one cohesive lot.
Okay, gotcha.
Other questions? Other questions for staff? If you'll leave that one up for just a minute.
Oh, absolutely.
My question was in terms of the demolition. So I understand the demolition has to occur in order to expand. Does it necessarily have to be a condition in order to grant this?
In this case, I believe it does because they're expanding a facility with for a specific purpose, which is that the code allows expansion of facilities, of storage unit facilities. They're pursuing that specific purpose. They'll be coming before the planning commission with a site plan showing that expansion. And so it makes sense to me to tie that together. They do have a year to record the subdivision, so that gives them some flexibility with regards to the demolition, and they can also apply for an extension on that recording timeframe. So, I think that they're integral. That's my opinion.
But I'm just wondering because obviously the demolition has to occur in order to expand. But if that demolition were to occur simultaneously, I'm just thinking out loud.
Yeah. I thought through it, as many times as I needed to get settled myself. I feel comfortable with it, particularly given that if they really intend on moving forward, they've got a year or two to do so. I think there's enough flexibility there that it's fair to link them.
So does,
Oh, go ahead. I'm sure it's not a deal breaker. I'm just wondering. I was just wondering, but thanks. Appreciate that.
does the water line that we're talking about come like off of 2700 and?
Yeah.
Okay.
So is it coming through? So are we stubbing it off here and then they're going to have to access from the front?
So right now it comes through because there's 2 separate ownerships with the parcels. And so to what Brandon described and we're proposing is that because this will ultimately be closed off and part of this, they really, aside from fire flow, won't have need for access for a water line under this part. So
My other question that I had was with the, one was to point out the buildings that will need to be removed. And then the 250 foot, because we're building off to the rear, they won't have anything else. That's why I want to clarify on the other parcels.
there is a 10-acre limitation, and Brandon, remind us of how many acres this is.
This is 9.54.
Yeah.
Can I go back to Commissioner Bolingbroke's question? As I understand it, if the city doesn't require the demolition prior to the building or prior to the recording of the subdivision, then we have no assurance that they wouldn't combine the property, gain the additional vested rights, and then actually be likely to follow the site plan. Does that make sense? So they could combine the property, leave it undemolished,
Right.
and and then not follow the site plan that they're planning on proposing. So,
No, I understand. I mean, I've just done some developments myself before, and I've had to remove structures, but we always recorded the plats and then removed the structure. But so I wasn't really sure about the steps, I guess, in the process. But anyway.
Okay, any other questions for staff from the commission?
You have the.
And I was just gonna ask,
Well,
if the petitioner would please come forward and state your name, and whoever's representing for tonight, state your name and your address, please, for the record.
So on the demolition, our site plan, which is currently reviewed, our sign of this would be demolished. We do not want to be withheld. There is no ordinance saying the buildings need to be demolished. If that were to happen, which we don't see a reason. All the other items we're talking about, the conditions, the waters. They know, I think we should. Yes, the main point is we don't feel that the condition.
Okay, any questions from the petitioner?
When do you feel that it's appropriate?
Before we're allowed so as soon as we have site approval,
Thank you.
Any other questions? I have one question. Do we need to do anything? And this is kind of a combination question from a retention. I didn't see anything on water retention, because now we're going to have more surface space because this is not covered, right? So does that need to be addressed into this as far as retention, detention pond, et cetera? Or does it all get caught back to the front?
So our site plan, the gravel area that is in between the two lots, that is the existing lots retention.
Okay,
We are going to propose detention at the rear of the site under the existing. So this,
and we are aware that this is not the site plan approval process. So I was just curious, you're looking into it already, and we're looking, and that is,
there's actually two detention ponds for the existing site. You see the lower left gravel area, middle right gravel area. We will be taking the area middle right, all of those 2 months instead of
okay, so that'll be worked out with engineering at that time. So perfect. Just to make sure that it was addressed or will be addressed. Any other questions for the petitioner? Thank you. Okay, any other questions for staff or discussion items between the commission? Open time to discuss. Thoughts, or even we can take a motion at this time. Just to clarify for our youth council, what we can do is we can recommend approval, or we are the approver on this one. So we can approve what they've petitioned and asked for. We can table it if we have more questions, and then we would table it and ask staff to get us some more information, or we can deny it based on a specific reason why we will. So at this time, discussion items, or would someone like to make a motion? Oh, is this a public
Commissioner
hearing?
Neff,
Yes, Commissioner Farr.
I would like
I
to
was
propose that
just
we
going
open a
to-
public hearing related to agenda item 2.
Made a motion for a public hearing. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I was corrected that we needed to open this to a public hearing. Thank you very much. But I'm going to first throw it to Commissioner Farr that she had a comment. Go ahead, Julie.
oh, I'm sorry. Before you opened it up, I was just going to mention how much I appreciated such a thorough packet that has been presented with all of this research and material that Mr. Bell has done.
I agree. It's a very, very thorough, and it helped cover and explain a few things once we were able to review it. So thank you for that comment. We're now opening a public hearing. Do we have anybody that would like to come and address the commission and ask questions or thoughts on the project that's been presented tonight?
Oh,
Right,
sorry, I'm
sorry.
just making notes.
I'm supposed to make the. Will you please approach and give us your name and address? And
And I can bring the microphone to you as well. So that was more convenient.
okay,
And the only really question I have is, like, just be aware of their fence lines or what they're doing, because we have horses on the ground. And if but we don't have a problem with the building.
okay, great. The petitioner will be willing to work with that's a little tough for us, but usually the property owners are pretty well to reach out to them and work together as a cohesive group on that. So great. Thank you. Appreciate you helping us out with that. Are there other items from the public that would like to have comments for tonight? So hearing no other comments, we have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
we have a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, we're no longer in a public hearing.
Aye.
We have to add on there.
I got Julie's on there.
Okay. Do we have anybody that'd like to make a motion? And I want to remind them that we, as a discussion item, or if we want to, staff recommended that we put the addition of required buildings in the space that are required, not the entire storage unit be torn down. I like that. And then that the application be finalized.
And just one clarification, I don't know if you understood, but obviously you can modify the conditions to the commission.
Right.
Yeah, and based on your last comment, I wasn't sure if it was clear enough. It's not the recommended condition regarding demolition isn't that the new buildings be constructed, just that the old ones be torn down.
Right. Not the current buildings, but the ones that are in the construction zone, right?
Right.
We just need to make sure that we specify that in here. So that's updated in the document.
I make a comment, Chair?
Yes.
And this is, Brandon, just a question. If the city can hold up the building permit until those other buildings are torn down, does that give you enough comfort? If the subdivision plat is recorded and the site plan is approved, the city still has the ability to stop this from moving forward if those buildings are not torn down.
If the building permit is not issued for the new construction.
Correct.
Prior to what? Or
So instead of holding the subdivision plat, if the city says we won't issue a building permit until the other buildings are torn down, does that give you enough comfort that you still are in control and those buildings will come down before the project moves forward?
my concern is that I'm struggling to understand where the applicant is losing time by this, because they can start demolition at any point that they want. We're losing our carrot once they record for demolition of those buildings, supposing that there's an issue with the finances or something on the project. And they record that, and then those buildings, there's no incentive to tear them down if there's not a new expansion coming. And so we're expanding the site, changing a site plan, but granting the vesting of the subdivision rights. So I'm most comfortable with what we're doing, but I'm open to the option that you just mentioned as well.
So how long of a delay just for educational standpoint, what are the steps in the process? How long would this take? The petitioner's claiming 4 months delay.
So they could begin demolition anytime that they want, as soon as they have a demolition permit, which they need to get anyway. That's independent of this process. So that process could start as soon as that they would like. Then with regards to the site plan, the Sorry, I lost my train of thought. The building permit, they can submit that and can be under review and be held as well, until the subdivision is recorded, which it would need to be. So that would be an option too, but it can be filed before the subdivision plat is recorded, so that there's not a delay there, and it just be put on hold until the subdivision is recorded, and the demolition is occurring. So I think it could be managed in a way in which there wouldn't be time lost. So.
Yeah, it answers my question. I guess my further question would be for the applicant. I don't know if maybe there's a financial reason why they need the subdivision plat recorded to get financing or something like that. And maybe that's what is driving the request by the petitioner. I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay, someone like to make a motion, question?
Yeah, I left my packet sitting on my desk. I apologize. So I have nothing in front of me.
Well, there's not an agenda. I'll get you one.
But this is for a minor subdivision, right?
Yes.
That's correct.
So site plan has not been submitted yet?
It's been submitted. It just isn't ready for this meeting. So,
Right.
yeah.
Because I think I would be in, thanks, appreciate it. Sorry,
You're just fine.
I had everything prepared and then I left it.
We'll send it electronic.
I think I would be in favor of what Commissioner Wilkinson presented before to have demolition. Because like I said, I've done several subdivisions myself in the past, and I've had to demo structures, trees, and that's never really been a issue. With recording, we recorded, and then I've had to, then take down the buildings and so I think I'd be in favor of removing that or what he suggested. But that's just me.
I guess if we're open for still discussion and then anybody can make a motion anytime. My thing is if it's not going to delay it and the project's going to move forward, that's when we ought to grant it and they can start. I mean, you're saying that yes, the demolition could start anytime he wants and he could be doing these others simultaneously. I don't see it, but if it allows the city to have a little more control over that, but it really isn't going to delay. So I guess why would we want to give up that control for the staff at that time? So I guess that's where I'm a little reluctant on giving that authority up. So especially where we've worked with them to try to get this to where we could move forward with this and changing in the ordinances and everything else. I think there's been quite a bit of work done on this project already. So.
Commissioner Neff,
Yes, go
I
ahead.
was going to say that I agree with your comment. I think I am most comfortable with moving forward the way that it has been presented by the administrative staff.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion to prepare? Sure, keep saying. Oh, yes, please.
As a newcomer to the planning commission, is there a specific concern with storage units that we didn't want to have? You're restricting them to 10 acres, and maybe can you give me a little history on the storage unit situation?
I'm happy to provide a little historical context. So the city council and the general plan reflects this, and for recommendation of the planning commission, proactively worked to rezone several of these parcels for commercial land. And so to allow our city to have, the commercial district. And so part of that, there was an ordinance put in place, limit the location of any new storage units, any expansion of storage units. The property owners worked really closely with the city and amending the ordinance to allow for expansion so long as this front corridor off of this main road isn't impacted with regards to commercial space. And so that's mainly where the ordinance comes into play, is focusing in on the location of additional storage units. But again, this is granted and up to 10 acres of existing units to expand, so long as that expansion doesn't happen directly off of the main. I don't know if that helps answer your question or if there's more insight.
Well, and Brandon's concerned that you might end up with two separate storage facilities if you don't have some control over that, or?
It's not two separate storage facilities. It's a facility on one property that was expanded for the purpose of a slightly larger storage facility that still has the gravel facilities on that property. So, which wasn't the purpose of the subdivision and won't be consistent with the site plan that will be coming. So in the area where there's currently gravel facilities, there's proposed to be additional storage units. And so we're just saying, make as much progress towards that as you can prior to recording the subdivision by demolishing those buildings so that they'll be ready for the expansion.
But that's ultimately the planning commission's court to determine whether or not they see fit with staff recommendations, or if you would rather have that modified. That's absolutely within your purview. Don't have anything more.
Chair, can I make one more comment?
Yes.
My concern is, as the applicant mentioned, is this something that we think is nice to do because it protects us, or is this something that we can do that's allowed in the code? And I guess that's my concern. If we do this and then the applicant comes back and says, you can't do that because it's not in your code, legally, where do we stand?
And I don't think there's anything in our code that prohibits doing that. It's just but if that's something you have discomfort with, absolutely, that's within your purview.
I guess this is the way I know to put it. And again, I second Amy's comments. It's the planning commission's decision. I'm just giving you my best opinion. But what's on the site currently is not what, on the smaller parcels that are going to be combined, is not part of what's going to potentially be approved on the site plan. So there ought to be progress towards getting rid of it as soon as possible to ensure that the city isn't left with one property that doesn't have something that is moving towards meeting the site plan. That's what I'm trying to get at.
So in a sense, they could build, if they plan it, you could go ahead and they could build here and they could build some here and leave all that there until they got around to adding the rest of it.
Well, they can't build anything without a building.
Without the building permit.
So, Chair, and I guess that's my question. What we're dealing with now is a subdivision, combining parcels together. There's another step that requires a site plan. And as part of that site plan approval, I think it's very appropriate to require those buildings to be torn down before the site plan advances, before a building permit is issued, before anything else happens on that property. It just by combining these parcels, it doesn't give them any advantage. They still have to come in and get additional approvals to do anything else on that property. And I guess that's where my concern comes from. I don't know that the subdivision level is the place to be requiring that extra step.
So in your sense, before they came in for the final layout,
Correct, for the site plan approval.
they still have to have the demolition done anyway.
So they could get a conditional approval from the planning commission or an approval with this same condition, but at the site plan level. My understanding is the site plan still has to be reviewed by the planning commission.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in my opinion, we're a step early requiring the demolition. But that's just my
Would
opinion.
you expect the demolition to take place before they come with the site plan? Because that would delay the process.
No, I would expect them to come in, submit their site plan, go through this process, have this same meeting, and we would, as long as it meets all the requirements, we would approve it with the condition that before they get a building permit and move forward with the project, those buildings are demolished.
But in Brandon's explanation, and just as a question back, if we allowed that and leave it and they don't do anything with it, now you've got two different uses on an area where the site plan never moved forward. And we've combined the subdivision into one.
Correct.
So now there are two different things on one subdivision.
Now, and I don't know what the other uses are, or if those would comply. It's okay to have two uses on one piece of property. I don't think that's and maybe I'm wrong.
Well, my view of it is that you're creating a new site plan that's essentially been approved because the subdivision's taken care of the old buildings. If they were to just stay there, then they've got, this site that's gone unapproved, so to speak.
Are the buildings in use right now that will be demolished?
The applicant would have to answer that. I don't know.
Yes, please.
So yes, they are inclusive. So I think our concern with doing the demo is obviously it's approved, we will demo. We did talk about. It's just if we demo it, then it's just waiting for the process because it is being approved right now. The structure, he's got a shop and roofs. So that's what, because we've started this process with the site plans back in October. And then there's been a lot of turnover. So he's just been in this one month. But it's just, I keep saying, okay, we'll be done in December. It's just all on and on. So that's kind of the reluctance to demo it early before, but you would certainly like before the building permit was issued, of course, but just to do it now and then waiting to see what's going to happen. But that's just.
Can I just affirm, then you would be losing revenue in the interim if they were demolished?
Yes. So I mean, we're willing to demo once it's ready to do the project, but we just don't want to demo it because as I said, we may Brandon is on meeting with this. I think submitted the first site over. So there's been a lengthy process. So it's just not as so we demo and go. There's permits with CapStar that we Sage with the demo company to the test for asbestos and permits for the power kill and all that. So we started it. We have the bid, we're ready to go. We just don't want it just have it sit there. All the business is there.
I guess if you're starting to do your demo, that you're not going to do the demo until you're ready for it anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
Well, that's my point is you're going to give him as long as, but when you're ready to demo, you're going to be doing that because you're ready to go on the site plan. You said until you have everything ready for the site plan.
True. And we'll then go ahead and start on the process, but it's proven to take a lot longer than we thought to get this.
But you just said you think that you have the site plan and everything ready to go, so you're going to want to demo it and take action on the site plan quickly anyway. Is that right?
Yes. Yes. Hopefully, people want to understand we'll have the same people, right? Because engineering is already done what we do. Then, of course, we get our demo.
But you could get the demo permit already and be moving, so they're simultaneous, I guess, is what I'm wondering.
Because we would have demoed in December. We thought we would have
Right.
So
Any other questions?
Yeah, a question. So let me think how I want to phrase this. So if Brandon, first, can the site plan approval run concurrently with the subdivision process? As if the subdivision is not recorded, you will still bring the site plan to the planning commission. It can get approved. Okay, so does it hurt you to just hold off on recording the subdivision until that site plan is also approved? So essentially things move forward at the same time. So
Please, I want to speak with the line and say something.
We're seeking approval.
I guess the question is, if your site plan is in the approval process and it gets approved, let's say in April, and you hold off recording the subdivision for a month, how does that affect you?
We had a surety that is gonna be approved within a timeframe. We really had an issue. We submitted in October, we submitted in November, and we tried to submit in December, was not good. We're gonna submit in January, but just now, it's subdivision. We have engineering comments approved. This process is. If we can. It's gonna be approved. We want. Basically, we don't feel the demolition staff. Site plan, design process, first one of these once the site condition. So we don't feel that it's.
So could we get the second really?
Well, so that's the question I asked Brandon.
So the way that the ordinance is, well, with the storage units is that it has, I mean, Brandon spoke to this a little bit, but it has to be an extension or an expansion of an existing storage unit facility. And so because there's all these different parcels and lots, this is a lot of what caused some of the delay. But because there's all these different parcels and lots, you can't expand onto those as part of a parcel. And so it has to be subdivided and put into one in order to allow the ordinance to be met. Otherwise, you're creating new storage unit facilities.
But if that's a condition of approval on the site plan, that the subdivision is recorded before anything happens.
I think that we could do that. So it would be a condition of approval for the site plan that the subdivision be recorded. So in other words, the approval they can't get a building permit until the subdivision is recorded, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I think.
Whatever we word it.
That's what I'm saying. I guess. Sure, go ahead.
General order of things, subdivision, ordered this. As the general process. We're trying to do it concurrently, which means we can't demolish buildings today. Just like approval, we want to do the same time. We want to do subdivision and site plans. Our intention was to have both of them on the agenda. But for some reason, final comments, we didn't get on. So we have to address all the final comments.
And I think that's what part of it is, if you're trying to move that quick and that fast forward, I think in some ways, this still says, if you get this, then demolish, then you can go to this. And so it sounds like there's a lot of stuff that can run anyway, right? I mean, that's the way I'm feeling. Thank you. Any other questions, comments from the commission? Okay, thank you. I'm open to hear a motion unless someone thinks they need to hear more, get more detail, which I don't think they want to have us delay it any longer, but.
I'm in favor, and I don't know how we word it, but removing the requirement to demo before site plan or recording the subdivision.
So the approval of conditions,
Excluding that. Yeah, I mean, that's what I would be in favor of. I mean, because I think it was addressed that'll be addressed in the next step. But
Is that what you're still thinking? Because I'm
Not necessarily anymore. Not necessarily anymore. So
I'm not getting that vibe. You're the only one
here's
still
my
on
thought.
that.
I'll throw it in the form of a motion if that's okay.
Please.
Okay. So I would move that we recommend approval of are we recommending or are we
Oh,
approving?
you're approving.
Okay, that we approve the Wildcat Storage minor subdivision with the conditions as proposed by staff, including that before the subdivision plat is recorded, the additional buildings that will become part of the current storage unit property need to be removed or torn down, demolished. I'll just leave it at that. I'm okay with that.
Can we add the application be finalized with staff?
Which
One of the conditions. Yeah.
That's one of the conditions.
Yeah,
Add the application be finalized with staff. Are you okay? with that?
yeah, I'm okay with that.
So we have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Let's open for discussion on the motion on the table. Any questions, thoughts?
So we're approving as stated, as written.
We are, yeah. So is it okay if I explain?
Yes,
My motion here.
that's why we have the discussion.
And I apologize, and let us
Of the motion, or
down one road and now we're coming back. But
that's why we do this.
my thought is I'm okay with what staff is proposing because this can run concurrently. If the site plan is going to be on the agenda next month and it's going to be approved, as long as it meets all of the requirements, which I'm guessing it will, I don't know that a month delay in recording the subdivision does anything as stated by the applicant. If those are really concurrent, as soon as that site plan is approved, they can record the subdivision and off we go. And as part of that site plan approval, we could put the condition that before a building permit is issued, the demolition has to take place.
Any other comment, any more discussion items on the motion on the table? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and vote. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, we have unanimous. So the minor subdivision has been approved. So we went ahead and approved that for tonight. And then they will be able to work with staff and get the details figured out and then go ahead and work towards the site plan to bring that forward for hopefully next month. So thank you very much for coming tonight on that one. Our next agenda item is Admiral Beverage Site Plan. Planning and Zoning Administrator Brandon Bell will explain and give us the presentation.
Thank you, Chair. So this is dealing with an existing site of Admiral Beverage. There's this, obviously there's a large bottling facility in their municipality, and they're focusing on a small expansion. And I think I can actually see where it's at on this diagram, but so this is kind of a very simple one. There's only basically an expansion of one building that's being proposed. As I worked with the city engineer, she mentioned that the city already has the right of way that it needs for that, and we don't need any additional property. So there wasn't a subdivision required in this case. There weren't any parcels being combined or added. And so there's also no changes to the amount of impervious surface on site. So this limits the amount of review that the Planning Commission can really do. Essentially, what we're looking at is parking and setbacks. And so city staff recommends approval of the proposed site plan in accordance with the city's zoning and building code regulations, with one condition of approval at present, which is just allowing minor variation in the building footprint within the setback requirements and without expanding current impervious area or reducing parking stalls. If you go to page 3 of the staff report, the proposed expansion is 84.39 from the east property line The applicant has also stated that they're 954 feet from the north property line. And so clearly within the setbacks on that one. And then I did receive an email from the applicant stating that the max number of people, so the parking for this is based on for every one employee on site, for every 2 employees on site, there needs to be 1 parking stall for the highest shift where the highest number of employees are at. And so the highest shift is about 85 people, the applicant stated, and they will have 66 parking spaces. So that's clearly more than half. So the applicant was very good at getting that information to me, and they're well over that 1-to-2 ratio. So let's see, there is a larger, I guess we don't have the packet up, but again, it's 85 feet from the east property line, about 950 from the north. So pretty simple. We just brought it essentially to respect the Planning Commission's role as the land use authority on site plans. So are there any questions that you have for myself?
Questions for staff at this time?
And I think in your packet, sorry to jump in, but we did work with the fire marshal on this to get approval on that as well.
And that was my question, is when they did their last expansion, this isn't showing their last expansion of this building, there was a big question on they created a pallet warehouse outside, and I think that was a big issue. And I can't remember how we got around that with the zoning. So the fire marshal's still okay with the new, because the new building, if I'm looking at it right, is right here in this corner. Is that right?
That's accurate.
So the fire marshal would have been aware of, because that was a big hang up on when they added on the final extension.
The fire marshal reviewed the new site plan and the needs.
Okay.
Do you have the applicant here if there's any specific questions for them?
May the applicant come forward and state his name and address for the record, please.
Corey Jepson. Responder.
Yeah, please.
327 South 200 Eastern Freedom.
Thank you. So do we have questions for the petitioner at this time? So is this a manufacturing addition? Is that what it's for, is manufacturing? Because your office, there's a small office space right here, right? So this is going to be off in this area.
Which is all the northeast corner of the southeast building.
Okay. Kind of a corner jog. Questions for the petitioner at this time? I'm excited that he can put 2 people per every parking stall, because nobody drives, nobody carpools as much anymore. So I'm impressed. We struggle at our place with parking stalls sometimes. So thank you very much. Do we need to open this one as a public hearing?
No.
It's not stated as such. So I just want to make sure, since I've been corrected once already tonight. All right, discussion amongst the commission.
I assume it's a single story.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve agenda item 2B, Admiral Beverage Site. Yeah.
With the conditions.
What were did I miss the conditions?
Sorry, just checking something else. Just that there be a minor.
Okay, I see it there now. With the recommended staff recommendations.
We have a motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? We'll take a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
I
Any opposed? Great, we'll get that, and we'll have you get with the city staff, and we'll move forward on the site plan for that. We're excited to have you keep growing with us. Thank you for being such a great community member with us. We'll go ahead and we'll move to the legislative item. So these are recommendation items. A zoning text amendment regarding accessory building in the A5 zone. We'll have Amy go ahead and present. Now, for those still in our audience, we do handle things that are administrative, which means we approve them. So we've got approved and they can go move forward. This is a legislative item. So we'll make a recommendation to the city council and then they will go ahead and act upon that and hopefully with the recommendation of the commission. Amy.
Okay, so before you this evening is rather a cleanup item with our new planner in tow. This was noticed and was kind of a surprise to us in the A5 zone. There are allowances for accessory structures that are agricultural, but anything beyond that is not allowed, which has not been the city's practice. And so this is a cleanup item to allow for those structures to exist. I don't know if there's any specific questions.
One question is, they still have to go through the whole building process and building permit. And,
If they're larger than, I think it's 200 square feet.
okay.
It's a requirement in the code. Don't quote me on that, but okay. Thank you, Councilman Brewery. My brain's a little fuzzy today, but one of the things with this that is included and I thought was appropriate as a proposal of language, and this is consideration for a recommendation to the city council, but is having the same setbacks that are required for the agricultural buildings. And so really, I think that's what's been applied prior. It's not any major change to practice in what we've done, but rather a cleanup item to make sure that it's clear in our code and we'll continue to be able to allow that use now that it's been brought to our attention that that's not listed as allowable use in the A5 zone.
I do like the definition or the spelling out of the space. Discussion from the commission of the proposal, especially those that live up in that area. How's this received or thoughts?
But it's fine with me, so.
And one note too, and I'm sorry, I keep jumping in, but it does still maintain the requirements of impervious surface. And so that, it's not just an open-ended, put as many of these structures in as you want. We still have limitations and requirements there. And I think the code cited in your packet.
Now there was attachment 2 that was onto the packet. There's no changes, but that is just an addendum to what we're looking at.
It's an informational.
That's what I thought. It's good wording.
The only changes being proposed are the red
In
line.
the red. Any questions to staff? Discussion items? If not, take a motion.
And it's a recommendation. So just,
Is this a public hearing?
Oh, we got to open the public hearing. Man, I'm not doing so well with
it's a
that.
public hearing. No, Chair, Chair Neff, it's not your fault. I noticed on the agenda that we didn't catch adding those as public hearings.
I'm not.
On the next agenda to do so, I've made a note.
Oh, they're there. I'm just slacking off today. I was catching one, but missed the other. We have a motion to open a public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
This is where those in the public can come up and address if they don't like some of the changes of the wording on the accessory building in the A5 area. You can give us your thoughts. You like it, you don't like it. Okay, anybody else from the public that would like to address the commission? If not, we'll take a motion to close the public hearing this time.
I move that we close the public hearing.
Now, first, we have a second.
Second.
A second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, Now the
Aye.
public hearing is closed. Now, do we have someone that would like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion. We recommend item 2A, or wait, that should be 3A, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
3A.
Well, the zoning text amendment, I'll just say the zoning text amendment regarding accessory buildings in the A5 zone as presented.
We have a first motion on the table. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a second. Any discussion on the motion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? So that looks unanimous. Our next is for remarks from commission and staff. We'll start with staff. Any open agenda items from the staff or from the commission, excuse me. We'll start with commission. So I believe that we are not slated for another one this month, but we are next month. And that's the 1st of April. Can you remind me, are we meeting the first Thursday or did we move that one because of spring breaks?
Likes it.
No, I'm just asking. I can't remember what we put.
We slated for April the 6th. If there's a problem with availability and attendance, we can look at it.
When would be the second date?
So typically we have reserved April the 20th, just as a placeholder option. So it's the 1st and the 3rd Thursdays, but we could be flexible. Look at the 13th as well.
If we have the majority that can make it, I just wanted
I don't have a
to make sure I might, but I will. Yeah, I might, but I will have.
Personally, the 20th would be better for me.
I gotta pull my calendar out just like it.
It's when the warm weather's hitting because we might all be unavailable.
You may want to. I'm not 100%. So
Would you like staff to send out a doodle poll?
let's do that real quick. Let's do that when we have our calendars and just make sure that
And then
we're,
everyone can fill it out and then whichever date has the highest.
so just as a reminder for the commission.
Yeah, what's been those days, Brandon, I guess I should ask our planner.
I don't think so.
Just as
We live for
a
this.
quick, a quick reminder to the commission, if there's a chance that you cannot make it, the quicker you can let staff know. So, every once in a while we have people start dropping out. If we don't look like we'll have a quorum, then they can immediately contact the petitioners and move it off. So any other commission items, business items, turn the time over to staff. Questions, thoughts,
I have a fun one.
concerns?
And I don't have the date, so I need to email you all anyway. So the Utah APA conference is coming up in May, and oh my goodness, I can't. Vernal. It's in the beautiful metropolis of Vernal, Utah. So if you'd like to attend, you're more than welcome to. That's something that we don't cover the full expenses, but do cover hotel and give some travel.
What's the dates?
They knew Vernal. Come on.
I just knew Vernal.
Step up.
It's like the second week, I think.
I will email out the day. I just got on their website here and it's pulling up last year's conference. So that's not really helping me. Let me see if I can pull it up quickly. But
I have it. I'm seeing May 10th preliminarily.
I think that's right.
Good.
And it really is an excellent opportunity. For state law now, you do have required training hours. So this is a great way to jump in and get some of those hours. Although if you don't go, even if you do go, Brandon will still give you some wonderful training.
We're still getting trained.
The true extra training treat. So I think it was the 10th, but I will send out that information to you all. And then if you can let me know if you'd like to go so that we can get a hotel renters for you.
Great.
May 10th through 12th.
Okay. Anything else from the staff?
Appreciate it.
Sarah, anything from the city council that we'd like to pass along?
Well,
We mic you for Julie, sorry, or for Commissioner Farr.
I don't even.
Not working?
It doesn't do it.
Mine's working a little too well, so.
That's on. That's on.
Okay.
I think they were taller standing back.
See our little pile over there. Our U City Council, 2 members just left, but we still have Haley and Cal here. They spent some time working with Miss North Ogden through her charity organization called the Power of Play. So she collects toys and games and coloring books and all sorts of things for children at Primary Children's McKinney Hospital. So they got a haul, and they also had flyers and stuff where people scan the QR code and were able to make donations directly to the charity. So our U City Council is pretty active. They've been doing a lot of really cool things. I just wanted to let you know that the youth in our city are really amazing. They step up, they show up, they work hard.
How long is this still going for? Or is this the delivery pack?
There's a QR code on there that you can donate still. These are going to go to Ms. North Ogden. And that was just in 2 hours. We had a limited amount of time. That's pretty good for 2 hours at 2 different grocery stores. So, but they're really cool. They're really good people. We also have a community day of service coming up on Monday, March 20th.
I will include that in the email.
I believe it's Monday, March. If you look at your calendar, I don't have anything. Is it Monday, March 20th? Help me out. Somebody open up a calendar.
I got this. Yes, March 20th.
Yes. And we did put it in the city's newsletter. And we also are going to remind people with an email blast and put it on social media that we're going to meet here at 4:00. Our Public Works Director, Tyson, has a great project for us. It's not real glamorous, but we'll feed you with some refreshments. Our city's storm drains the covers and stuff are in need of being cleared off and marked. And especially with what's coming with the spring and the snow melt, we want to make sure that our residents are protected and that our city doesn't end up having, issues. So we're not obviously doing the whole city. There's no way we could. So we're going to choose a section and work for, 1 or 2 hours and have some fun with our community. So spread the word, show up, 4:00, Monday, March 20th. And
Are we meeting here?
yes,
Because I'll include that.
at the city office building.
And any
What kind
tools
of tools?
required, like shovels?
Dress warm, wear gloves.
They'll have some equipment, but if you want
Yes.
to.
You're encouraged to. And the thing is, dress for work. You're going to be clearing off debris off of storm drains and, marking them. So,
It's after daylight saving, so that gives us an extra hour.
right. So if we can work from 4 to 6 or something like that,
6, we'll be at 7:30 by then.
well, okay, but it's a good project. And again, this is just a small showing. If you were to come, we have about 34 kids on our Cities Youth City Council. And they are amazing. They really, really are. So.
Well, a big part of that is the leadership of them, though. I will say, in the last couple of years, Councilmember Yuri has gotten engaged, and now they are civically engaged, and it's been an awesome turning point from my perspective. And not that they weren't engaged in doing great things before, but they are here at meetings, they are present, they are asking questions. They were down at the legislative session last month. I mean, they've really been involved. Great.
They're amazing. And we also have Cindy Harrison, who took Allison's, position, and Cindy is phenomenal, and we have a great time, and they're just amazing. That's another thing too that's coming up. So, part of the requirement for this year is that they had to attend 3 different meetings, City Council, Planning Commission, or a project meeting. Like, for instance, last week we had several show up to the Transportation Master Plan project meeting. So there's certain ones that we've invited them to. 2 can be from the same category, but 1 has to be different. And so that's also part of their scholarship application. A bunch of our seniors will be applying this next month. We encourage you to come to that meeting, because part of that, as well as applying and attending meetings, is going to be like picture 6th grade science fair. They're going to set up their portfolios, stand by their table, open house style for an hour, to present to you their experience of being on city council, why it matters, what they plan to do with their experience, and share some of the things that they've done.
Great.
And so that's coming up in April. And then obviously we'll present the awards to those who city council. We're starting to plan, can you believe it? Founders Day. Our first plan meetings this month. Holy cow. And that's coming up. All hands on deck. We've already been doing it for 2 months anyway.
Is that city council, or can other people be part of that?
It's a public meeting, so you can come, but it will be a discussion among committee members. So it's not really a public forum as far as it's up to the chair if they want to hear things. But usually it's just everybody kind of knows what they're doing. It's everybody on, with their assignments, and let's start. Is there anything that we need to address? But absolutely, it's a public meeting. You are welcome to come. It's March 14th if you want to know. So.
Great.
That's a really good list.
Oh, did you hear?
No.
We resubmitted our pickleball grants. We came in second, you guys. You heard. Yes, second ranked with meeting all the things that RAMP is looking for. They were madly impressed with our application. Thank you very much. And no, it was amazing. And so we asked for more money because the way that we asked last year wasn't going to work. So we actually gave it back and took the gamble of, please like us. And this is how we are redoing our application to show that because of costs and everything else that has gone up, we needed to redo it anyway. And the way that we're going to proceed with our project. And we were awarded, well, not officially yet, but let's be honest, the commission never rejects our recommendations. I'm also on the RAMP board. So 477,000 that we are probably, but we weren't even number one as far as the most funding. I want to say it was because North Ogden got 703,000 for their pond. Yeah. Pretty awesome though. But we're excited.
That's cool.
So get the word out though, because we got to match. We have a certain amount. We've got to match that. And that will just be phase one. So. Okay.
Thank you. Let's go ahead if there's no other comments for the night.
Just wanted to bring up.
I was just gonna say,
And Julie, do you want me to hop in there? Do you want to hop in and talk about it? Happy Dr. Seuss birthday.
Yes. Peter Geisler's birthday.
Julie, can you hear us? I can chime in and Julie popped in the office earlier. They were going out of town, that's why she's electronic. But she just wanted to bring up whether or not we wanted to look at building height restrictions in the manufacturing zone. Looking at what other cities do, he's asking if there's a need to prevent a scenario we maybe wouldn't expect. And in talking about this and looking at recent projects in our manufacturing zone, we do not have height restrictions. So ultimately, it's based on approval of our fire marshal, whether or not.
would they not fall under the current? I guess they don't meet the other, we don't have it's its own.
Yeah, no, my question was not that we would be doing anything tonight per se, but is that worth looking at and seeing if we would benefit from having a height restriction?
I think that's something we definitely would want to look at because we're continuing to grow out in that area and there's going to be more growth we know is coming in that area. So if there's something that other cities are doing that we should probably do, we also maybe should get a dot recommendation from the fire marshal to see if there's anything from a restriction from their area that they wouldn't feel comfortable. That way the petitioners would have something up front rather than come in and then be rejected based on the fire.
With the fire marshal, it's Ryan Barker, but he really indicated that as long as they can safely put out a fire, they're really not worried about a level of height of the building. So we don't have a ladder truck, so that can be an influencer, but it's not necessarily something that would eliminate a certain height. So I'm happy as staff to take the lead in doing some research on this and seeing how other cities regulate that.
We may want to look at the building or business depot. They've had some concerns about high buildings in adjoining residential areas.
Correct. And I know I've seen some recent feedback with the large Boyer building going up. So it hurts to look at that.
Great. All right. Take a motion and we close this meeting tonight. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There we go.
Bye.
Thank you, Julie, for joining us tonight. Appreciate it. Have a good
You're
rest of your-
welcome.